Well, let's move on, Patrick. Well, it's election season in the United States, and the silliness seems to have begun in earnest.
Yeah, but they're not calling this an election story. This is what we would call BountyGate. And this all started with this great scoop here by the New York Times. And the White House is dismissing reports of bounties, but is silent on Russia. So basically, the New York Times put out this story, which is that the Russians are paying Taliban to take out U.S. soldiers, basically snipers. So let's look at what's behind this story. And basically, it's the claim that American intelligence officials have concluded that a Russian military intelligence unit secretly offered bounties to the Taliban. Offered, doesn't say they necessarily paid, linked militants for killing coalition forces in Afghanistan, including targeting American troops. It's all very vague.
So can I just ask, these are American intelligence officials of the type that created the Iraq War propaganda, or maybe the type on the UK side that created the Skripal story?
Oh, it's better than that, because they're alleging it's the same secret Russian GRU unit that carried out the Skripal attacks and hacked the 2016 elections.
Right.
So they're quite, versatile secret agency in Russia. They do elections, they do hacking, they do Fancy Bear, Cozy Bear, they do Novichok and Salisbury, and they also give cash bungs to jihadis to take out U.S. troops in Afghanistan. Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely.
So what does Donald Trump think about this? Well, the allegation is that he was briefed about this back in March and did nothing. And the resistance is absolutely furious about this. How dare he stab our troops in the back, stab our boys in the back? Why won't he call Vladimir Putin out? Why won't he initiate retaliatory measures? Because of a story that appeared in the New York Times that quotes anonymous intelligence officials. Well, Donald Trump's been there before, and this is his basically response to this. He says, this is all a made-up fake news media hoax started to slander me and the Republican Party. It's a hoax, says Donald Trump. He's saying, speak to the hand. This is a hoax. So he's about had enough of it. But the media and the Democratic Party, they have another idea behind this. And this is Nancy Pelosi, the third most powerful woman or person in the United States, Speaker of the House, Democrat from California. And she's saying he has undermined any credibility he may have had as commander-in-chief if he could call a possible assault on our troops, our men and women in uniform, by the Russians, a hoax, without even wanting to read about it, learn more about it, and make a really informed judgment about it.
So hold on, a possible assault on our troops?
Possible. It's littered with this. Possible, alleged, and so forth. So she's basically saying, why won't you acknowledge our fake news story in the New York Times? And what's wrong with this president? This is the same Nancy Pelosi that ran with Adam Schiff, a totally fake and discredited impeachment effort. They wasted a whole impeachment effort that took, 3 or 4 months. They completely bombed on that. The Mueller report bombed as well. So RussiaGate is basically dead. So let's look at BountyGate and just a quick summary here. And so BountyGate, you've got the Taliban in Afghanistan being paid by Vladimir Putin to take out U.S. troops. That's the basic gist of the plot there. So what are they saying here in terms of, what's behind the story? Leaked intelligence. This is the first red flag from unnamed U.S. sources. Okay. Secondly, this is the beauty here, Mike. The gleaned intelligence was from interrogation of Afghan detainees.
Oh, so they tortured people to get this information?
So it must be true. It must be accurate. They possibly tortured some taxi driver or goat herder to get this. Okay, it gets better. The middleman is thought to have ties to both the GRU and the Taliban. So apparently, the guys that were being tortured spoke of a middleman that apparently had ties to the GRU and the Taliban, but it gets even better than that. So how are they paying these Taliban? How are the Russians paying? Records of Hawala payments, i.e. cash IOU. It's a cash IOU system.
Yeah.
Okay, this is contradictory in itself because Hawala
you don't have records.
Don't leave records, exactly. So it's a total IOU cash system that's used. The Syrian rebels and the jihadis in Syria were being funded through Hawala networks behind enemy lines and behind state lines and stuff like that. So I mean, the whole story is kind of a joke. But so what's behind this is something called the Lincoln Project is one of the forces pushing this right now. We've got a video we can show you real quick. This was put out just after this story broke, and I don't think it's a coincidence that this was timed so well. But go ahead and we'll roll this.
My name is Dan Barkoff. I'm a 2001 United States Naval Academy graduate. I'm an ex-Navy SEAL, currently an emergency room physician, and the founder of Veterans for Responsible Leadership. Months ago, Donald Trump learned that the Russians were paying bounties for dead American soldiers in Afghanistan. He chose to do nothing about it. Any commander-in-chief with a spine would be stomping the living shit out of some Russians right now, diplomatically, economically, or, if necessary, with the sort of asymmetric warfare they're using to send our kids home in body bags. Mr. Trump, you're either a coward who can't stand up to an ex-KGB goon, or you're complicit. Which is it? Donald Trump is unfit to be our commander-in-chief, and that's worse than useless. I'm a pro-life, gun-owning combat veteran, and I can see Trump for what he is, a coward. We need to send this draft dodger back to his golf courses. The lives of our troops depend on it.
Where do you start?
Well, first of all, a Navy SEAL, and he's calling out the president. So this is really driving a wedge in between Trump and the military. He fancies himself as a military candidate. So, but let's look at this, the Lincoln Project. Who are they? And so the Lincoln Project, we are Republicans. We want Trump defeated. They were launched in December of 2019. So this is an election effort. It's a super PAC here. There's a lot of big names behind it associated with John McCain and the Bush administration. So basically they're neocons. And so what I can glean from this story is that Trump isn't being neocon enough, wanting to withdraw U.S. troops from Afghanistan. And this latest story seems to throw a spanner in the works. So let's just revisit the narrative here on this story. So BountyGate, now Donald Trump, it's really RussiaGate 2.0. That's what we're looking at, okay? That's what BountyGate is. And here's why. Let's take a look at why. Basically, so this is an election year story. This is planted in the New York Times. It's one of many stories that are going to be rolled out in the run-up to November, okay? This is designed to discredit Trump, but also to divide his support lines as well. So it also pushes Russia out of Afghan peace talks, which are going on right now. Not only that, China has also been pushed out of this because of poor relations with China. You could blame the president for that as well. And Iran is not really involved anymore either. So it's really the only parties left are the United States, Pakistan, the Afghan government, which is really a puppet government, and the Taliban. So I'm not sure what the results of this are going to be. Could it end up being a stalemate and we're staying in Afghanistan longer? Certainly, if you look at it from this point of view, Mike, this is one of the objectives of planting this story by the CIA or whoever planted it in the New York Times and created this whole story. So the increased tension ahead of nuclear arms talks with Russia. This is also a result.
And there's already a ton of tension there as the U.S. tries to, pretty bogus in their attempts to get China involved in those talks as well.
That's right. That's right. So an election ploy to sow doubt in Trump amongst the military. They're really trying hard to divide that support for the president. Now, Donald Trump is faltering in the polls. His support is faltering because of the COVID crisis, which they're trying to blame everything, including the unemployment levels and all the lockdown measures that state governors have taken. They're also blaming that on Trump. So, but also this revitalizes the anti-Russian media attack kind of program that we saw from 2016 really up to 2019. And then finally, I think is that all?
I think that's it, yeah.
Yeah, so that's really what this story is all about. It's very clear this is RussiaGate 2.0.
You do have to ask, how much of a dead horse can they keep flogging? Because this doesn't, the narrative doesn't change. It's RussiaGate, Salisbury, and now this. None of those other stories stuck. Why do they think that they can make this one stick?
It will stick long enough to do its job. So like I said, there's a bunch of these stories already loaded in the chamber, ready to fire out right up until, I would say, the second week of October. Usually in U.S. politics, there's kind of a gentleman's agreement, no matter how nasty the election is, that everyone will stop. The scandals or the fake stories will stop and let people campaign for the final 2 weeks. That's usually what happens. So, and you can basically expect this. There'll be another sex scandal as well, probably for Trump, probably in September or something like that, maybe, So it's expected. This is what you're going to get. It's going to be a wild ride the next 4 months.
Okay.
4 months of wildness.
Okay. Well, look, thank you very much, Patrick. We'll leave it there for now. Thank you.